What's going on YouTube? CloverBells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the tournaments that happened over this weekend, particularly in Victory Road, their first Welcome to Paldea online tour, and it was a tournament that featured 450 plus of the best players and some interesting results here. First of all, the winner was not the person itself, but Pawmot. So Pawmot won this tournament, and of course it is on a team with Dondozo Tatsugiri. So we'll give our thoughts on that in a second. But the main idea is we're covering Victory Road, and it's nice to see some meta development here as in response to what has transpired over the last week and a half or so, right? Because some changes have been made in terms of meta calls and progression, and we're gonna look at some of those things. And not only in this tournament, but also in Saturday's tour. And Saturday was another NinoPokeBros tournament, so we're going to look at that as well, because that has some interesting data and some interesting choices as far as, you know, what do you think could be the meta call, or where is the meta going in terms of the direction of the game. Because again, you know, the whole point is, you know, we're leading up to this regional in San Diego in January, so people are still testing out ideas, you know, because it's still a very new game. But again, as far as where we left off last time, so what do we know is that we know that Garchomp, Gholdengo, Hydreigon, they're like running around and causing a ruckus, especially Gholdengo. You still have stuff like Murkrow, you know, creating havoc. And then the answer is, well, what do you go from here? Like, can you still cover for some of the other stuff? Like maybe Intimidate Armarouge Trick Room, can you still cover for Dondozo Tatsugiri stuff? And then maybe there's a couple of niche mons out there that haven't been explored, that maybe do need to be explored, because you know, it's always nice to have like that little surprise factor on your squads that, you know, people just aren't prepared for, haven't been testing for, right? And then that's what carries a meta over, right? These surprise choices that can change a meta and then force you as a player to adjust your team, you know, because now you understand that, oh, now they're prepared for something that I have, so in response I have to bring this, so this way I can call the meta myself. All right, so that's my introduction there. And first we're going to look at the winner from Victory Road and some of these other choices and some of these teams, and as well as combine that with maybe even the NinoPokeBros tour. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with some of these topics. All right, so let's take a look at Adrian's team. So it's a Dondozo Tatsugiri squad with Pawmot, and this is always like an interesting idea, right? Because, you know, yes, you have Dondozo Tatsugiri. We know what those two can do. You get the Omni Boost, you deal a bunch of damage. But then what happens when one of them faints, right? What happens when the Dondozo faints, or what happens when the Tatsugiri faints? Well, then Pawmot has this this skill called Revival Blessing, where you can revive one of them into your party at 50% health, and that's always a really scary idea if you can think about it. But the idea also, not only this, was the combination of Pawmot and Meowscarada, right? Because both of these things can do a lot of damage, especially Meowscarada with Flower Trick. But also the idea was Soak, right? And I think we also saw that in Aaron Trailer's team when they ran Dondozo Tatsugiri and Meowscarada. I believe there was a Soak concept as well. I want to see if this had it, if there was a Soak idea over here. And it is, yeah. So this is Art Card teams from the NinoPokeBros tour. Same idea, right? So Tatsugiri has Soak, and then all of a sudden now you have Toxtricity going for like these super effective electric moves. But also the idea here with Soak Tatsugiri, is that now Pawmot is dealing super effective electric damage, because Double Shock does a lot, right? I just want you to know that. Like, if you look at Pawmot's stats, like, it has like a decent speed tier and a solid attack stat, right? Like, let me just bring this up here. So base 115 attack is not bad. It's actually very nice. It's not like super amazing, but it's still like pretty darn good. And then of course the ability, the skill Double Shock, like it's base 120 with 100% accurate, right? So I mean, it's a really strong move. And then if you can just soak things and then just one-shot them like that. And then of course you have Meowscarada with either Overgrow or Protean, depending on the player. Either way, you're still clicking Flower Trick, which is basically Urshifu and Light Mode, right? But you know, you always get a crit, and then, you know, you just click Soak, and now all of a sudden you're just one-shotting these. So now you're just not entirely dependent on Tatsugiri and Dondozo, right? I think this is a cool concept, right? With with these four: Dondozo, Tatsugiri, and then Pawmot and Meowscarada. But there's also a Trick Room mode, and what's even more surprising, and even in Nick Navarre's team, you know, Nails, like both of them had Gothitelle. Okay, so we'll address Gothitelle in a second, but I think this is a cool idea just to like add more variety into the Dondozo Tatsugiri stuff, right? So yeah, it's a really cool thing to pull off, and then I don't, maybe this might be the thing going forward. Like now you might see, okay, now how do I deal with this? Because now all of a sudden Tatsugiris are running Soak. Okay, so it's cool. I like it a lot, and congrats again to Adrian. It's a really cool concept, very creative, very innovative, and yeah, maybe Dondozo can keep winning tournaments going forward. Like I love that thing. You know, it's almost like the Colossal of this generation, right? Remember Sword and Shield, where like Colossal was just so oppressive, and you had to build your team to like respect it. You always had to have an answer. I feel like Dondozo was in that category as well, right? So this is good variety and a good mix here with the Pawmot and Meowscarada with the Soak Tatsugiri. So really cool. Now let's look at Gothitelle next. Okay, the next thing I want to look at is how both of these teams actually wanted to utilize Gothitelle. So we'll just add that over here. So like that came out of nowhere, right? Like what does Gothitelle actually do for your squad? Well, it actually does quite a lot, all things considered, because if you look at its ability, of course, yes, it gets frisk, but the main idea is either you have two moves. Either you have something called competitive, where, you know, maybe you get intimidated, or maybe you get a stat lord, and then you get special attack raised by 2 stages, which is actually really, really nice. Or you get this ability called Shadow Tag, all right, which prevents you from switching. All right, so it's very oppressive, and then you can run stuff like Perish Song, if you so choose. Oh, actually, it's actually illegal. I thought it actually had it this time around. But if it does get Trick Room, okay, it does get Trick Room, and if you look at their teams from both Adrian and Nick Navarro's side, they all have a Trick Room of user, right? So with Gothitelle, you have the Torkoal, so you have the Torkoal mode in addition to Dondozo Tatsugiri stuff, and then if you look at Nick's team. All right, he has the Amoonguss, you know, to click Spore on things, and then he also has Garganical as another Pokemon that can function in Trick Room, as well as the Kingambit, right? And I know the Gyarados Arcanine is like a little bit of a surprise option there, considering Intimidate has dropped, but they both have Trick Room answers, all right, and they both have a Trick Room mode, and that's very, very good in the meta where you want to be flexible with your team, especially in a best-of-3 tournament. So you don't want to only rely on one mode, right? And you can see in Adrian's mode. Adrian's squad, I should say. Yes, we have the oppressive mode with the Dondozo Tatsugiri, and of course Meowscarada and Pawmot. Yes, but then you also have a Trick Room mode with Gothitelle Torkoal. Maybe you click Protect and then Trick Room turn 1, and then you start clicking Heat Waves or Eruptions. I don't know his sets, by the way. I'm just like speculating. But on Nick's side, again, same idea. You redirect, you click Trick Room, then maybe you can get a free switch into Kingambit or Garganical. And then support with either maybe the Arcanine or Gyarados in the back, something like that, right? So, you know, very, very nice in terms of options. You know, there's a Fire, Water, Grass core here on Nick's team, so I like that a lot. And then even on this one, you also have a Fire, Water, Grass core. So still your VGC cores, your VGC fundamental team building skills are intact, right? So those cores are always what we look for in building squads. But as far as like what else Gothitelle gets, like you also get access to something like Fake Out. You get stuff like Hypnosis. You know, you can put things to sleep, and of course you can run like one stab move, like maybe Psychic, for instance. So cool Pokemon, right? And it's bulky, right? So like base 110 special defense is very, very good. Defense 95 also pretty good. HP a little bit lackluster, but again, this is not a Pokemon that maybe you'd be offensive with. Maybe you could just be like supportive and just, you know, even out the bulk, you know, with something like this, and then just go like, I don't know, maybe like, here, if I had to just make like a quick spread here, just maybe something like this, and then just invest completely in your bulk, where you just go to like one of these bumps here, all right, and then just go the rest in like special defense. This is just like a general spread that I'm just speaking of, but Gothitelle has a lot of things that it can do. Like you can even run like a Calm Mindset, and then you can become a sweeper. You got screens. Do you have Reflect? You also have a screen set that could be possibly ran. There is Substitute and Taunt. There's Thunder Wave. So a lot of good support toolkit that maybe we haven't considered. It also gets Charm, Fake Tears, right? What else do we have here? Helping Hand, of course. Heal Pulse. Okay, that's another thing. Imprison Trick Room, by the way. So a lot of cool moves that it gets, and I guess it just needs to be explored a little bit more. You know, we still have new toy syndrome where people are just trying out new things, but you know, you can see how well it can do. I mean, even though it has a psychic weakness, so definitely weak to the dark stuff, like Meowscarada or maybe even Hydreigon, but still, you can see with proper play and maybe with the proper set, of course, you can make any Pokemon, any niche Pokemon work if it's placed on the right team. So these two very clear examples of that. So nice job with Gothitelle. I guess it could be explored more. So we'll have to see what happens moving forward. But it's nice to see a little bit of a change, right? But yeah, I digress. Let's look at some of the other key concepts moving forward here. I want to come back to the Nino Tour for a second. So again, you know, if you remember last time, we saw this dwindling use of Intimidate, where of the 36 teams, I believe maybe 21 of them did not have Intimidate, right? And now we can see that number shrink even more. Like, look at where the Arcanine and Gyarados are, or in Intimidate in general. Like, nothing in the top 6, nothing, not even one. Okay, and then now over here, rank 7, finally you get one in 7th. But then if you go further down, again, there's one Gyarados here from Fiona. But then again, you keep going down, and then okay, 18, 19, sure. But then there's a couple more here, one down there, one down here, and that's pretty much it. There's not much Arcanine. If I were to look at the usage stats over here, you know, for the Nino Tour Top Cut, you know, there's only 6 Arcanine, and there's no Gyarados at all in this. Maybe there was like 3, I think. So like now we went from, what was it, 21? Now we're down to 6 Arcanines in the top 30, and you know, it just doesn't do much anymore, right? Because of a couple of reasons, which will lead us into our next point in the video. You have the clear amulet item that's being used a lot, and you also have Defiant and Mirror Armor users like Corviknight and Annihilape, right? So again, like what are we using Intimidate for? Not a whole lot. And then let's look at the Victory Road teams. Like, this was a surprise, like to see Arcanine and Gyarados. But again, Intimidate is not bad. It's just like not as viable as it once was. But you saw it here. That's one. And then if you go down, nothing. Like, where is the Arcanine and Gyarados? I don't see any. Right? There's Corviknight Supremacy, by the way. Yeah, man, dude, it's gone. Like, okay, we had to go all the way down to 17th to see another Intimidate user, and there's the Gyarados. Anything else? All right, there's an Arcanine, but like, yeah, it's just almost extinct at this point. And I'm curious to see what next weekend's tournaments look like. If they don't have, if they even have an Arcanine or Gyarados in the top 20. How many of you want to make a bet? Yo, top 20. Do we see Arcanine or Gyarados in the top 20? Right? Will it get to that point? All right, $50. Comment. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Annihilape next, because this is one reason why Intimidate has gone down. All right, and let's take a look at that. Okay, so I want to bring attention to Annihilape and Corviknight first of all, because these are two Pokemon that have been deterring Intimidate. But more specifically, the Annihilape. What is the set? Okay, because a lot of people, they think that, you know, you want to run Annihilape with something like this. And it was very common. It's still somewhat relatively out there. It's the Final Gambit Choice Scarf set, right? So here we go. Choice Scarf. You had Final Gambit. You had Shadow Claw. Shadow Ball. Shadow Claw. You had something like Close Combat, and then some other filler move that I can't remember off the top of my head. So you had this kind of set where your job was to just basically, you know, take out your opponent's problematic Pokemon and, you know, just sacrifice yourself for the sake of glory. Okay, that was a very common thing to do. But because of the rise of Gholdengo switch-ins, like, you can't, like, if you click Final Gambit and they switch in Gholdengo, your Final Gambit does nothing. And now they just outplay you, because now their second slot attacks your Annihilape, and now your Final Gambit is useless. And you're locked into it with Choice Scarf. So that wasn't as consistent anymore. So what was the adaptation? How did the Annihilape evolve? Right? And first of all, before we even get to that, it has Defiant, right? Which will, of course, deter Intimidate, because if you lead your Intimidate now, Annihilape is just +2. And instead of becoming a Final Gambit machine, now you're just a physical attacker that could sweep, right? With the Choice Scarf. So that was scary. So what was the set? What was the adaptation, right? So let's take a look at some of these teams from the Nino Tour, because we actually have their sets. So this was it. It was the Bulk Up Rage Fist set, right? So you have Drain Punch, Rage Fist, Bulk Up, Protect, Lumberry, so you don't get slept or burned. Terra type Water was a good tech choice over here. But this was Nate's team that won first place. First of all, we'll talk about the Abomasnow set Titan in another video. This was actually really cool to see it win. But more on that in another video. But Annihilate, really nice option here. And you also have Redirection to help set it up. So you have Follow Me, then you can click Bulk Up, and now it becomes really hard to beat because now it's just physically oppressive in both attack and defensive side. And if I look at some of the other sets, let's look at some other Annihilate teams, right? Right. Oh wow, you actually don't see any. There we go. Here we go. I am Pokey, number 10. And again, it is a Rage Fist Drain Up Bulk Up set, right? And this one is Leftovers, so passive recovery. And instead of Indeedee, you have the Maushold and Amoonguss, so something with Redirection to help set it up, right? And then if I keep going, where's another Maushold team from Patcon? Is it a Bulk Up set? It is a Bulk Up set, right? So another Leftovers variant, and again, you know, just being able to set that up, and then you have, you know, screens behind it, which was kind of like Nate's idea, where you have the Aurora Veil, and now the Annihilape's just super hard to remove, right? Let's just look at a couple more just to see and confirm that this is the more common sets. So Max and Stranger Danger, and yep, it is another Drain Punch Rage Fist Bulk Up set, this time with safety goggles. Okay, so that's another good choice, and again, Redirection with Maushold or Indeedee, so a similar concept there. Nice in terms of setup, right? Setup is a very common thing right now. And then let's look at Stranger Dangers just to like put a mouse on this, and then there it is again. There's no final Gambit set. That's completely gone. And this one is another Leftover set. Two Redirectors, right? It's like Annihilate and 2 Redirectors. Okay. What about in Victory Road? Did we also see that? Yeah. See, look, Annihilate, Maushold. So Annihilate, Redirector. 4th place. Annihilate, 2 Redirectors, right? And with Indeedee, Maushold. Where else? Same thing here. Chongjun's team. Annihilate, Redirector. What else? Right here. Casper's. Annihilate, Redirector. Do I need to keep going? Wait, that was... Oops. No, that was no... that was not an Annihilate. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, right here. Daniel and Bingji's team. Annihilate and Redirector. It's a lot of Maushold stuff. Oh, they actually ran very similar teams, by the way. Do I need to continue? Okay, this is the first one that I've seen where no Redirection, but he has screens, right? So similar concept to the Abomasnow idea. And then if I'll just look at one more because we're getting close to outside of it. Oh wow, there's a Tickaton over here, that top cut. Okay, yeah, you don't even see. Okay, there's one more. So Annihilate, Abomasnow, screens, Redirector. So it's a common idea, right? So if you want to start building your team around Annihilate, you need a Redirector and either Grimmsnarl screens or an Abomasnow Hail concept, right? Where you have Aurora Veil. So it's a cool idea. I like to see that in terms of meta progression, and you know, Annihilate's a cool Pokemon, and I'm glad that it's getting some good usage here. But this is one reason how you've contributed to the lack of Intimidate in the format, because of that definability. All right, so let's keep on moving here. Okay, so just like Annihilate, right? You also have the use of Corviknight, which is again in my top 5 of you know, underused or underrated Pokemon that you should be using, right? Because it's got Mirror Armor. Mirror Armor is such a cool ability. Let's go to Daniel's team. This is still my favorite 6. If you remember this 6, this is what Bacalabear used, and this is the same 6 that we did a team building around Tyranitar for with Garchomp and the 3 Fire, Water, Grass homies with Rotom, Heat, Gastrodon, and Amoonguss. So if you look here, yeah, there's Mirror Armor with safety goggles, and of course you have Tailwind on your team. With Brave Bird, Iron Head, and Taunt. So Taunt is a nice tech choice over here, which makes a lot of sense. You know, you want to deny like opposing Tailwind or opposing Trick Room or opposing Setup. So that was kind of cool there. But you know, again, Mirror Armor is really nice. And look how many Corviknight you're seeing now. So you got one in 5th place over here, and then if you keep going down, you got some other top cut placements from Corviknight over here in 12th and 14th. So let's just go ahead and click that right here. First of all, Mudsdale is another one on my list that's also underrated, so I'm really glad to see this over here from Mr. Rishi and Sylveon. So we got 1, 2, 3 Pokemon on the same team that are in my top 5 of underrated, underused Pokemon. So right here, Lumberry is another good choice. This is one that I've experimented with, but this is a body press setup with Brave Bird and Bulk Up. So Bulk Up is really nice because you might say, well, where's the Iron Defense, right? Iron Defense gives you +2 defense, but Bulk Up also gives you +1 defense. So your body press is not hitting as hard, but it's still hitting pretty hard because you're still getting defense boost. And now you're not entirely reliant on your fighting move, right? Because what if you just run into a ghost type? What are you doing? But now you have Brave Bird as well. So you can also deal damage that way, and Roost. This is actually a really, really nice set. I like this a lot in terms of, you know, just having that extra option there, because you might think Brave Bird, Bulk Up, and Roost, you need those 3 options and then Tailwind, right? But there's no Tailwind on this team. So they're going for a defensive option with Grimmsnarl Screens. You know, Light Misty Terrain is actually kind of wild, but yeah. And then if you look at over here, down with if you want to see Yoshi and Lugia, this is a Tailwind set as well. Ironhead, Brave Bird, Taunt. Again, we talked about Taunt. And Volcarona, again, this is another one that's in my top 5. Okay, can't wait to put out that video after this one because we're seeing all these tournament options, right? Listen, you know, kudos to these people, right? Heat Wave, Will-O-Wisp, okay, really, really nice. And then Rage Fire Strongbow, good set. But again, Corviknight, Mirror Armor, where's the Intimidate? You're not intimidating this team, right? Because look, what does Intimidate do? Nothing. You just crit through it with Flower Trick. Volcarona is a special attacker, that doesn't matter. All right. Hydreigon special attacker, doesn't matter. Sylveon special attacker, doesn't matter. Corviknight, Mirror Armor, good job, Intimidate. And then Gyarados is the only one that kind of suffers, but then you just have Dragon Dance to like kind of offset that a little bit. So, you know, what does Intimidate do? Nothing. This is why it's like declining, all right? Because you're just not getting enough value for it. Is there another Corviknight here? I think I saw a couple more. Yeah, see, here we go. Shino-san. And are we gonna see it? Okay, here we go. Brave Bird, Ironhead, Roost, Tailwind. So this is another Rocky Helmet. So this is another good tech choice, right? Why Rocky Helmet? Think of all the Mausholds that are running around clicking Population Bomb. You click Population Bomb into Corviknight, guess what? That Maushold is gonna kill itself because you're taking chip damage every time for all 10 ticks of Population Bomb. So really, really nice there. Mirror Armor, really good. Again, what does Intimidate really do to the team? Very, very bad. Meowscarada, you crit through it. Annihilate, Defiant, thank you for the +2. Corviknight again, Mirror Armor. Now you are Intimidate. Grimmsnarl, great, good job. And then I guess only Rotom Wash, special attacker. Only Arcanine kind of suffers, but like Arcanine is not meant to be, you know, the most physically oppressive mon here. Where this person's using it as a supportive set. So, you know, you see the value again. You know, just as an intimidator of Intimidate, I should say. And then you have like a Tailwind set along with some other support moves. Any other Corviknights here within the top 30? I just want to make sure over there. So there was that one. And that's pretty much it. Okay, sure. Well done. But then over here, there was a Corviknight and Oppo's team. So this is my favorite team of the tournament. All right, in Victory Road, because he's got Corviknight and Volcarona. Once again, just like Fiona, another. Oh wait, yeah, there's no sets here. Soups. But you see the same idea, right? So like, what does Intimidate do to his team? Nothing. It's just a Garchomp, which probably has a clear amulet anyway. So yeah, any other Corviknights here? I think there was just one more, and it should rise a little more, but I think I saw one more. Oh, there's that 6, right? Daniel's. Oh, it's Danielle again. Yeah, entered both. Cool. So Corviknight, along with you know, the Fire, Water, Grass core homies with Amoonguss, Rotom, and Gastrodon, and of course T-Tar and Garchomp. So yeah, I mean, I expect Corviknight to be used a little bit more because you saw it in these 2 tournaments. It has top cut placements. So yeah, I like it a lot. It's like my favorite steel type flying at the moment. There's no Celesteela in this format right now, unfortunately, but once that thing comes out, you bet your butt we're going to be using that thing. But yeah, love to see Corviknight being used, and we got some other ideas to talk about. So let's move on forward. All right, next idea I want to talk about is Meowscarada and the resurgence of it, and it's just like going bonkers right now. So if you look at like the usage data, I'm going to look at both VR and the Nino Tour. We have the data from the Nino Tour. I don't have it for VR, so I guess we'll just have to hand look at that. But if we look at the Nino Tour, look at this. 15 times in the top cut. There's 30 teams, and we see 15 Meowscaradas. That is insane, right? Just as much as Hydreigon. And the question is why? What's so good about it? Well, it checks Dondozo, first of all. Like, it has Flower Trick. It's Urshifu, just Urshifu light mode. You crit through everything. Crit screens don't matter. You know, nice Intimidate, right? Doesn't matter. And then, you know, you have this concept of a couple moves, actually. Not a couple moves, but you have either Overgrow with a Focus Sash. So if this thing gets down to like 1 HP, right? Now basically all your stats are, not all your stats, your attacking stat with your grass move is just hitting way too hard, right? And now you're just adding more damage to Flower Trick. So the fact that this thing can get sashed is actually kind of cool. But not that it gets sashed, but you know what I mean, right? But from here, what else can you do? You also have access to Protein. Now, it only works once, right? Protein does get nerfed. But that being said, now you can have a little bit more of a wider move pool. Now you can get access to Play Rough, which is used on a couple of Meowscaradas. So, like, what does Play Rough do? It's a fairy move. You can hit the Hydreigons with it. You can hit the Garchomps with it that don't decide to Terra. So, really, really nice option there. Okay, and if I were to look in the Pikalytics site, not Gothitelle, but Meowscarada, right? Look, 15% usage, really, really high. If you look at some of the common stuff that it can run, Play Rough is in there as one of its sets. It also gets access to, of course, Knockoff. Really good at removing key items that opponents have, and it's your Dark Stab move, so really, really nice there. Then you also get access to U-Turn and even Sucker Punch. So good move pool there. If we look at the Nino Tour, just to look at some of their sets on some of the top cut teams, let's look at Pengy's team just to see what's running. Yeah, see, like Overgrow with the Focus Sash, Flower Trick, Knockoff, and it gets access to Trick Room, by the way. We did talk about that in our Meowscarada spotlight video. The fact that you can get access to Trick Room is actually really, really nice. You can set up your Armarouge and then just, you know, start hamming, or you can just flip Tailwind teams up or inside their head, because now all of a sudden now you have the faster one, right? And of course you have this nice combination with Soak Tatsugiri, so cool idea there. But you also get Fake Tears, which is actually really good. So this shows you the flexibility with like Sylveon and Hydreigon and Armarouge. That's really, really clever by Pengy. I want to use this team. It's actually really nice. But then if we just look at a few more for Meowscarada, and again, like, you just have to understand, like, why are we using it? It's a good check to a lot of Pokemon right now. So there's this set, Flower Check, Knockoff, Sucker Punch, U-Turn, right? We just saw that in the Pikalytics site. So good use of our data there. And it's Choice Band Protean. Oh my god, that is a lot of damage. Dude, this thing can one-shot Garchomps, right? You know, even if they don't Terra, like, Choice Band Protean, Flower Trick does so much. And if this thing were to Terra, oh my goodness, yeah. Let's just keep going here. Just a couple more, just to see like some of the stuff. Where are we? All right, Juan, Mr. Garcia over here, and Junior. All right, we'll just look at these two. And another Choice Band set, same idea. So, you know, of course, is this another Choice Band set? Is Choice Band the clear cut item, or is it Focus? Okay, so back to Focus Sash Overgrow here. Sucker Punch, Protect, Knockoff, Flower Trick. Okay, so we got Protect on this one. If we go into the Victory Road Tour, look at the Meowscarada. You got one in first place, another one in third and fourth place. So really, really high usage there. Then we got 9th and 10th. So we got 5 Meowscaradas in the top 10. Okay. Of course, it makes a lot of sense. It's just a strong Pokemon, and it does a lot of damage, right? Because you need your Dondozo checks. You got another one from Marcus in 13th. And then if I keep going down the list, you got Meowscarada, Narwhal. Okay, again, and if you just keep going down here, you see that it's everywhere, and it's a good Pokemon to have. Like, if you're building like Tailwind stuff, Meowscarada is a really good Pokemon to have. You just like outspeed everything, and then just click Flower Trick, one-shot thing, not one-shot things, but, you know, deal a lot of damage, and, you know, it's hard to remove, or hard to switch in, I should say. So good use of Meowscarada there throughout the tournament, and I expect to see it rise moving forward. Okay, so the next idea is, again, like picking up from like the last couple of tournaments, the Gholdengo, Hydreigon, Garchomp core plus the Murkrow stuff. How much do we see that in the Nino Tour, and how much of that do we see in the VR Tour? So let me just scroll all the way back up here. So none in the top 2 actually, which is actually funny enough. And then none in the, well, you do have Hydreigon and Gholdengo, of course. But then you have Murkrow with none of those. So it's actually interesting. There's a little bit more variety in the top 4 at the very least. And then even over here, like Garchomp, and then no Hydreigon, no Gholdengo, no Murkrow. Okay. But you do have Talonflame and Gardevoir, so this is like some Tailwind with like Telepathy, Earthquake stuff, so that's also kind of cool. I wouldn't even be surprised if this Garchomp was like Terra Flying, just so that Garchomp can Earthquake next to it. And then even over here, Murkrow, but none of the other Dragon homies. You do have Hydreigon, but no Gholdengo here. Actually, if you look here, in the top 8, only one Gholdengo, by the way. Just one Gholdengo. That's actually very interesting. But if I go down, I see a little bit more Gholdengo. Alright, so now we're getting into it. But again, Gholdengo, but where are the 3 homies? Where's Murkrow, where's Garchomp, and where's Hydreigon? Nothing here. This is just a Palafin rain team. That's actually kind of cool. And then over here, finally we get to see it. So Gholdengo, Garchomp, Murkrow, Hydreigon with the typical Maushold, Redirection, and then Annihilape. This is actually a very standard team, you know, and this is like one of those teams where like, you know, you give to someone and it's like really cool to pilot on ladder, because you get a nice feel of the meta this way, right? So this is actually a really standard 6 that I would like build with someone. Then you go to Bingji's team, Gholdengo, Murkrow, and of course you still have Maushold and Annihilape, but then you have also the Armarouge. So none of that there. But then over here, Garchomp. Oh, this is another favorite 6, right? Garchomp, but then nothing else. Not that nothing else, but again, no Hydreigon, no Gholdengo, no Murkrow, right? This is actually another one of my favorites. This is actually a really cool team from Nova. So there's that. Yeah, okay, again, Gholdengo, Murkrow, but you know, none of the 4. So you're seeing like some differences in how you want to play the team. Okay, finally another one with the big 4. So either you get 2 of the big 4, 3 of the big 4, maybe just even 1, right? So teams are adapting to the meta. You can't just run Garchomp, Gholdengo, Murkrow, Hydreigon anymore, and then just like slap on two homies, and then that's it, right? You got to have some more variety, and now we're seeing it. Ooh, this is cool. There's Mudray Gyarados, by the way. All right, so there's that. And then if you look at the Nino Tour, like how much of that do you see? I mean, once it, like again, in the top 5, no Gholdengo. Now we have one. So Garchomp, Gholdengo, Murkrow, Hydreigon. You see that. This is from Saturday, by the way. Garchomp, Gholdengo, Hydreigon, and Murkrow again. And it's more common here, right? A little bit more common. But when you went into Sunday, not so much. But then even as you go down here, like you still don't see as much of the 4 together, right? Even as I go down here, yeah, man, those are just like a few sample sizes. I don't see them. I see either Garchomp and something else, or like Gholdengo and Murkrow something else, but that's it. You know, and I think we have like the usage data over here. If I just look at the Pokeface, not this one over here. Yeah, man. See, like you can see like of the in the top cut, like only 8 Hydreigon, Garchomp, right? Not like 20 of them, like from the last tournament. That was insane. Then you have Hydreigon, Murkrow down to 7 over here. Gholdengo, Murkrow. Yeah, I mean it's still like somewhat common, but like you're only getting like 8 or 6 of them. So it makes a lot of sense, right? Because teams are adapting. And then, you know, Sylveon, by the way, again, another one that is underrated that should be rising in usage. Because, again, I've said this before, and I'll talk about Sylveon a little bit more. Like, you just run through a lot of that core, except for, like, Gholdengo stuff. But because Sylveon, Fairy Move against Garchomp, Fairy Move against Hydreigon, Fairy Move against Murkrow, you know, all 3 of them just drop unless you Terra, right? Yes, you have Gholdengo, but like, you know, if they're running like a Calm Mindset and if they have like Terra Fire, you're kind of screwed. So there's that. But you can see like the evolution, right? It's not as dominant as it once was, all right? Because teams are starting to adapt. All right, let's look at another key idea that I saw. Okay, so another key idea I wanted to look at was Azumarill, because Azumarill all of a sudden has also started to rise. And if you think about what Azumarill used to do in the past, it had huge power, so your attack stat is doubled. And then you had often something like a Citrus Berry, you had Aqua Jet, and then you had like Belly Drum, and then maybe something like Protect and Parasong, for example. But these were like 2 staples on a typical Azumarill set. But then if you looked at the Nino Tour, there wasn't any Azumarill on Saturday, nothing. Can I even find one? I don't know. Yeah, none of them. But if I looked in the Nino Tour, I'm sorry, in the Victory Road Tour, You got one in 3rd place from Maddie. You got one in 6th place from Chongjun. Okay, and then if I keep going down, you'll notice that all of a sudden they start popping up. Like, look at this. You had one from Max in 27. Dude, what the heck? From 29, 30, 31. Like, you had Tim, Eugeno, and Shiliang all running Azumarill. And that's a lot of Azumarill. Like, is there any more? I just want to check. Okay, so how many Azumarill we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, right? 5, 6 Azumarill in the top cut in VR. That's a lot. That's a lot. And something to take note of because you get a nice water type, and then you also get a fairy type. So, like, you get play rough for Hydreigons, for Meowscaradas, you get for Garchomp. You do well against some fire type options like, you know, Armarouge, even like, you know, just like it does a lot. And Aqua Jet Belly Drum set is very powerful. And even if they're not running like Aqua Jet stuff, you know, it's still like a very, very strong Pokemon. So like you have Maushold here with Redirection. This might be a Belly Drum set. Even Amoonguss Azumarill is also another kind of thing. Like, is Azumarill Redirection a common theme here? Let me just take a look at a quick pick here. Yeah, so you have Indeedee Azumarill here to set up Belly Drum. Over here, Indeedee Azumarill, Maushold Azumarill, Amoonguss Azumarill. Yeah, I would imagine these are all like Belly Drum setup plays with like some kind of recovery berry, like a citrus berry, for example. So, really interesting to see that Azumarill is now on the rise. Makes a lot of sense, does a lot of damage. You get priority moves, so like Speed Control with Tailwind and Trick Room doesn't really matter a whole lot to Azumarill. So that's also very, very nice and interesting to note of. But yeah, I just, like, you gotta have some other fairies besides Grimmsnarl and Sylveon, right? So the fact that we're getting a physical fairy option is a nice thing. All right, so let's keep going. So another mon that has also risen a lot is Kingambit. And again, this is another one of those Defiant users that can deter Intimidate. But if there's no more Intimidate at some point, you might even just see like Supreme Overlord just come out into play, right? Because this is another way where you can get like an extra boost depending on if your ally faints. But if you look at Kingambit's stats, like again, we know what it does in terms of bulk, like 100 base HP, 120 defense, 135 attack, and an 85 special defense. Really, really strong. And if you look at like the VR tour and the Nino's tour, so let's look at VR first. Like if I were to just go from top to bottom, how many Kingambit do we see? Okay, 1 in second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dude, like 6, 7. All right, where else? 8, 9, 10 Kingambits around. Maybe I missed one, but like 10 Kingambits in the top 40. Okay, and if I look at the Nino tour, you can also see some Kingambits there. But let's just like understand what it does, right? Besides the ability. Okay, like let's look at Joe's here. So Joe on Saturday was using Kingambit. I think he just changed out the mouse over Sylveon or something like that. But again, there's Defiant, there's Weakness, Policy, Terra type Fire, by the way. So just in case you want to just like take that fire attack behind screens, you just proc a Policy and then you just deal big damage right back with Iron Egg, Kowtow Cleave, and then Sucker Punch, right? So like this is another good check to not only intimidate stuff, but then Gholdengo stuff, right? Gholdengo has a hard time of removing Kingambit, and then you also can deal a lot of damage to Hydreigon because Hydreigon, unless it's running a fire move, is not dealing a whole lot of damage into Kingambit either. But it's a nice strong steel type that's not named Gholdengo, right? So moving forward, I think you'll see even more Kingambit, but it's also used a lot in Trick Room stuff. So if I were to like look at some of these other teams that were using Kingambit, like again, you saw Nick Navarre's team in second place with Kingambit, can function in Trick Room. This one also, like I think the Gengar also had Trick Room, but again, that's not the point. It's also under Tailwind, but also to deter the Intimidate. So this way, Garchomp has a much easier time. Any other Kingambits over here? This one also in the Tailwind Palafin team. So that's also good because then you remove the fire weakness because you get Drizzle from the Pelipper. So that's another cool use for Kingambit. This one also, you're trying to be bulky behind screens, in terms of defensive play. And then over here, again, another rain team that wants to help out Kingambit. What else do we have here in terms of like concept? another Rain team. So like it seems like Rain team plus Kingambit is actually kind of cool. But if I had to keep going down to the top cut, so here's another Trick Room team with Kingambit. This one's like hard Trick Room team, right? With like Lilycole stuff, and then Torkoal. And then what else do we have? This one. Okay, so this one has screens with a Titan. So kind of like the Grimmsnarl concept. Just be bulky behind it. Deter intimidates. And then Joey, and then again, here's Joe, his squad. Again, just swaps out the Maushold for the Sylveon. But again, similar idea, you know, Kingambit behind screens. But good Gholdengo check. That's also why you kind of saw it drop out a little bit in terms of like removal. Because I think Kingambit just does a lot into it. And now they're going to have to get a little bit more creative into how they use Gholdengo, but I think it makes a lot of sense as far as like the pressure that it can put on and just like deterring those intimidates, right? So, yeah. All right, two other Pokemon I want to talk about together is Skeledirge and Armarouge. So these are two strong fire options that you can consider on your teams, and this is also what has done really well in the Nino Tour and in the PokeBros. In the NinoPokeBros Tour and the VR Tour. So if we take a look at their sets, actually before we even do that, let's actually analyze what they do. So Skeledirge, they have Unaware, which is really good against the Dondozo stuff. And then it also gets stuff like Snarl, so you can neuter special attackers. It gets Slack Off, so you can also heal yourself. And then of course Torch Song, really strong fire attack, and then Shadow Ball, where you just get like a ghost stamp. So something like this, then maybe even like a Recovery Berry, or maybe this might even be like an Assault Vest Skeledirge and then just run another move besides Slack Off. But you know, Unaware is really important. But then Armarouge, two things you can note is it gets access to Trick Room, and it also gets access to Wide Guard, right? And then you can just go like with two stab moves like Expanding Force, and then the Armor Cannon. Where are you? Armor Cannon. And this is also really good on those Gholdengo teams with Murkrow, because again, you can just remove those debuffs and then just keep clicking it, right? So really strong fire options to have for two different reasons. And if we look at the VR tour, let's see how many they had. There's one. I think there was actually in total like 7 Armarouges. So let's just see. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6. Okay, so then in terms of the Skeledirges, I counted this. There was like 7 Skeledirges, right? So 7 Skeledirges in the top cut. And then if you look at the Nino Tour, we actually have the data, so I can just skip to the data. Like you saw 7 Armarouges, and then 4 more Skeledirges, right? And in the top 30 as opposed to top 40. So it's on the rise. 2 good fire options besides Arcanine are being used for different reasons. But again, they do 2 different things, but it all depends on what your team needs, right? So if you need like something for Dondozo, this is one way to go around it with Skeledirge. If you need like Trick Room stuff with Wide Guard, which is really good against like Gholdengo stuff, good against Garchomp stuff, good against a lot of things with like spread moves, then maybe a Wide Guard setter with Armarouge is also your play. And then, you know, Expanding Force is just a really strong move in the second turn with Indeedee. So you'll often see these two together, of course. They just do a whole lot together. But yeah, I just like that, you know, people are just using other things just besides Arcanine as a fire option. Yes, you do have the occasional Talonflame and stuff like that. But Skeledirge and Armarouge, by far, clearly the top 2 fire options to use right now in Scarlet and Violet. All right, so yeah. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is Maushold. Again, is on the rise. We just did a video on this. And it just makes a lot of sense, right? Like, what does Maushold do? You know, just very briefly, not to just like reiterate what we said in the other video, but dude, Population Bomb is just such a broken move along with Follow Me. Like, you just get so much value out of this. Like, you just one-shot things, especially if this is like wide lens. Like, so this way you can pretty much just hit everything, and it's fast, and it can be relatively bulky with Friend Guard, or you can deal more damage with Technician, right? And it's just so much value that you can get, whether you have the Technician set or the Friend Guard set, where you can ruin a lot of damage calcs. But like, and then the redirection to allow the setup for like either Trick Room or a setup play from maybe Swords Dance or Dragon Dance or something like that. It's just so good. Like, how many Mausholds did we see in the VR? I counted them, and just to scroll down, just so that you understand, there was 10 Mausholds in the top 40, right? 10 Mausholds. All right, that's too many Mausholds. And then if I go into the VR tour, there was 8 8 in the top 30. So pretty much more or less the same ratio. Like it's too good, and this is why the item Rocky Helmet is being used. And we saw it when we talked about Corviknight. You know, when you have Rocky Helmet, okay, it does a lot. And then Garchomp, of course, has rough skin, but you might see this item start to be used a little bit more now, right? Because we can't just let Maushold click Population Bomb and run through it. Okay, there has to be an answer, and this is why like fighting Pokemon are very useful. This is why Annihilape is also really good, because then you can just remove this right off the bat. But you know, if you allow the Maushold to stay on the field and click Population Bomb, that's a mistake. Okay, you might provide redirection for your Maushold. Like there might be Indeedee Maushold just so that you can click Follow Me, and then Maushold clicks Population Bomb. So it's just like, why are they on the same team together? Now you understand why. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So some cool trends, some cool teams to come out on top. Again, you saw the Dondozo Tatsugiri finally winning a tour. Of course, they had a little help from Pawmot. And of course, we talked a little bit about some of the other cool options like Kingambit, you know, Corviknight, Azumarill, and of course now we have Maushold stuff. A little bit of a decline with the Gholdengo, Garchomp, Murkrow, Hydreigon core. They're on like separate other teams now because teams are adapting. You know, but maybe Soap Tatsugiri continues to move forward. I still like some of the other options that I expect to be used a little bit more, like a Volcarona, like a Corviknight. These are all Pokemon that I think could do really well. Sylveon, I expect to increase even more in uses because it just does so much into a lot of the common threats as of this moment. The Trick Room stuff, again, no hard Trick Room yet. You know, I just don't think we have the options to have hard Trick Room. Like back in the day, we had Glastrier and Calyrex. Those two were like very, very strong, bulky Pokemon. We don't really have that. We just have like Torkoal and I guess Hariyama, but that's not enough, right? So it's more of a deterrent against like Tailwind teams, right? That's what we're using Trick Room for. And then as far as like the Tailwind stuff, that's still running around. That's still a lot. So Tailwind is important to a lot of teams, whether it's Murkrow, Talonflame, Pelipper, or maybe a Hydreigon running it. So we've seen a few of those. Even here, like there's a Salamence here. I'm sure this has Tailwind, by the way. Well, actually, I actually don't even know. Kilowattrel is another one that has been used for Tailwind stuff. So people are getting a little bit more creative. But yeah, we'll see what the next future tournaments have in store. But you know, some interesting mons have come out on top. But yeah, if you like this video, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Let me know what you think of how we analyze both of these tours. You know, a lot happened over the weekend. You know, it's all leading up into January as we get closer to that first regional in San Diego. All right. So we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good day.